Carl Cannon, Washington Bureau Chief of Real Clear Politics, joins me now on Skype. Carl, welcome back. Always so good to see you. Joe Biden goes into today ahead in the polls, but as you and I both know, President Trump proved the polls wrong back in 2016. Let's talk a little bit about that, Carl.
Well, what's happening is Joe Biden's had a steady lead. He's been ahead in the national polls, 8-10 points since June, but it tightened in the last 2 weeks, and it especially tightened in the battleground states that we're all looking at: Florida, Ohio, Georgia, North Carolina, and of course Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has tightened considerably just in the last few days.
Carl, you mentioned a couple of those states. What states in particular will you be watching tonight as the results come in?
Well, Florida, counts their votes pretty well, and I know that's not what if you remember hanging chads in the 2000 race 20 years ago, maybe you think I'm crazy, but Florida will tell us if Joe Biden and the Democrats are going to have a big night, and this is a wave election, and they win Florida, we'll know that pretty quickly. If it's tight, too tight to call, or the president holds on to Florida narrowly as he did last time, we could be in for a very long night.
Yeah, Carl, who can
maybe even a long week.
Yeah, absolutely. And who can forget those hanging chads? We remember those. Right now in the race for the White House, though, what are the demographics, that is, that you're going to be keeping your eye on as we see this all play out?
Well, two voting blocks in particular are interesting to me. One is the Catholic vote. We did a poll with you, with the EWTN, Real Clear Politics EWTN poll, and showed Joe Biden with a 12-point lead among likely voters who are Roman Catholic. But Donald Trump's support, the president's support, is most heavy among the most devout Catholics, who are not only the most committed to their church, they're the most committed to voting. And so if Donald Trump's base comes out and that Catholic vote tightens, that'll tell us it's also going to be a close election. And also young people, if the old saw, young people don't vote, that hasn't been true for 2 cycles now. And if under 40 voters turn out in droves, it could be a good night for Democrats across the country.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see how that shakes out. Besides the presidential race, we've also been reporting on the battle for the Senate. What are the key states that you'll be watching there?
Well, South Carolina will tell us a lot. Lindsey Graham is comfortably ahead in the polls, but he's got an attractive young African-American candidate he's running against. Is a popular person, Jamie Harrison. If that's even if that's very close, that'll tell us a lot. Georgia, you mentioned in the earlier segment, 2 Senate seats up. Democrats lead both of them. Susan Collins in Maine is in the fight of her life, and if she loses, it tells you that our hyper-partisan politics just isn't set up for centrists or moderates to do well.
Yeah.
So that's the East Coast here, and that's what I'll be watching initially.
Yeah, so the Democrats really are expected to retain and possibly gain seats, as you mentioned. Anything else you want to talk about a little bit more when it comes to that?
Well, the other thing is you've got to watch Ohio, Tracy. No Republican's ever been elected president without carrying Ohio. Donald Trump carried it comfortably 4 years ago, so much so that the Democrats pulled out of it. In the Real Clear Politics average, though, that state's tied. If the president holds on to Florida and holds on to Ohio, you start to see how he puts together his map. If either one or both of those states go Democratic, this could be a comfortable win for Democrats.
Carl, we have a little bit less than a minute left. Any final thoughts when it comes to the election?
Well, they're boarding up, stores from Rodeo Drive in Los Angeles to Washington, even in Philadelphia. That's where the Constitution, was written. That's where the Declaration of Independence was written. And it's ground zero for this presidential campaign in Pennsylvania. And you'd like to think that Americans, even if their candidate doesn't win, would be able to hold it together and have a better sense of history. And I'm hopeful that we rise to the occasion, although nothing in 2020 has turned out exactly the way I'd hoped.
That is for sure. Well, Carl, we always appreciate you coming on and your insight. Carl Cannon, Washington Bureau Chief of Real Clear Politics. Thanks again.
Thank you, Tracy.